So, I'm always looking for ways to try and make myself smarter. And part of becoming smarter involves talking to people who are smarter than you and have more experience than you do. So, today I had an opportunity to sit down and chat with one such individual by the name of Mark Wolters. Mark and his wife have a YouTube channel called Wolters World, which is just a wealth of information whenever it comes to travel. It's probably the most practical resource that I found on YouTube as far as travel and different things like that. You can go check it out yourself. Had a chance to sit down and talk with Mark today. We talked history, we talked travel, we talked different things that are going on right now. Really enjoyed myself, really learned a lot, and hope that you do too. All right, I think we are up and rolling. There's a podcast that I listen to, and the guy that runs it had a quote that I don't know where the origin is, but the quote was, I think it's actually a curse more than a quote. It says, "May you live in interesting times."
Yeah, it is
And we
quite interesting times right now. That's for
we are
sure. This,
we
this
are
will be
living.
every single person's conversation piece for the next 50 years. Like, what were you doing? What did you do for the quarantine? And everybody will have that, And you go through history and you see those things. Like my mom and her friends always talk about, where were you when Kennedy was shot?
Mhm.
Where were you when the man landed on the moon? For us, it's where were you on 9/11? It'll be like, hey, what were you? Were you stuck someplace during the quarantine of 20? I mean, this is a defining moment for a lot of people, and I think that's one thing a lot of people forget. Like, we're always living history because we're part of history, but this is a true moment. Like, when you think back, like they talk about the Spanish flu, you're like, well, part of the Spanish reason why it's called Spanish flu is a marketing thing,
Yeah.
because Spain was the only one that had the news actually going on, so they reported the cases. So it's kind of interesting. Like, now, wait, you'll see this, and your kids will read about this in history class in the future, and you'll be like, yeah, no, we sat at home and did nothing. We did our part. I'm like, yeah, and that's the best thing you can do. That's what you can do. You do it. So it's kind of interesting that way.
Yeah. So
Interesting times. Interesting
it
times.
it
Thank you for
is.
having me on, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, I appreciate you taking the time. I know that you've got a wealth of travel experience, and been to all kinds of different parts of the world. So I'm kind of looking forward to just learning a little bit from you. So I mean, we're
Sure.
talking about the COVID-19 thing that's going on right now, and I
Yeah.
know that that's affected a lot of people's travel.
Oh,
What
yeah.
how has that affected you guys as far as your travel plans and things like that?
It has canceled or reorganized travel plans for March, April, May, June, um, probably July as well, because so many things have been moved around, and we're not trying to cancel anything, because a lot of people can cancel or we can move things back, because we still want to help support these places we go to.
Mhm.
So like our trip for March, we moved to November. Our trip for April, we're going to be doing in October. Our trip in May and June, we don't know what we're going to do yet, because we're getting closer to when it's there, but I think we're going to end up moving that trip to December. And so we're just trying to move it back so we can still be, supporting those communities. Because I know a lot of places we go, we're actually going to go see friends. So us going there is helping our friends' business and stuff like that just by being there
Right.
and showing the support. So it has cut down a lot. And it's weird is I have not been home this much in a row. So I was in El Salvador at the beginning of February, and I was supposed to go to the UK at the end of February for a conference. My wife had gotten sick, so she's okay, she's fine. But we had to cancel it so I could be home. So I'm like, you can't move, like you can't function. I can't leave you home alone with the kids for like 10 days. So I ended up and stayed here. So it's 2 months now, and the last time I'd been gone 2 months without traveling, I think we did the numbers. It was like early 2015 or late 2014. So
Oh my
it's been
goodness.
we go. Like this year, like it's not always like big, huge trips. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
smaller. Like January, we did a trip to Savannah, Georgia. We did one to Atlanta. We did one to Huntsville, Alabama for space camp. Did another one to New Orleans. So it's all domestic stuff. So I spent
Okay.
a lot of time in the Atlanta airport going through on our flights. And then we had a bunch of stuff scheduled this summer. I know we're not going to, like, we have one for May. It was going to be May and June. That's not going to happen.
Mhm.
But I was going to be teaching in Austria, so that's gone. And then we had some time before and after we're going to be there. So like we're going to Ethiopia and Israel and Turkey, places we've never been before. We wanted to put some big videos. Those are going to be gone. So
Oh man.
a lot of stuff's changed. And I think, excuse me, some of the stuff, excuse me, some of the stuff will be going on later this year. I mean, we have plans to go to Ireland and the Cayman Islands and New York. What else? My wife's heading up to not New England. Well, yes, New England and England. And I think those will probably happen. But it's interesting how things really kind of changed. And I see with a lot of people right now with their travel plans, people always ask, when can I travel again? When can I travel again? Well, it depends where you want to go. And like, thank God we've really flattened the curve. So things, remember they were talking like 2 million people could die. And now they're like, oh, 60,000. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I mean, it's horrible that 60, but it's like compared to what we were thinking. And so I think you're going to start seeing people starting to think about traveling again. Like right now, no one's thinking about travel. But no, it should they.
Right.
It's the reason.
Right.
But I think you're going to start seeing people thinking about travel. But I think what you're going to see is a lot more people are going to stay close to home. You'll see a lot more domestic travel because domestic travel will open up first before international travel. So no matter where you are in the world, people in Japan are going to stay and travel in Japan and see Japan. And people in the U.S. will stay in the U.S. because think about it. I mean, unfortunately, we've had a lot of our fans have written us and be like, I'm stuck in Poland. I'm stuck in Denmark. I can't get out. I felt so bad. This one lady wrote me. She's like, my husband is in Germany. I'm in Chicago. I'm not a German citizen. How do I get back to him? I'm like, you can't because they closed the borders. You can't fly back to him.
Oh my gosh.
So like, if you have a place in Chicago, just hunker down there. Skype call in, Zoom call in, so you have that. I mean, my wife and I, when we were dating, we lived I was in Portugal and she was in Savannah, Georgia. And so we had a Skype relationship basically for a year because that's where it was until she was over. We got married and stuff, and it's tough. It's really tough. There's a lot of families going through some tough times. But I think the thought that, hey, if it pops back up again, which it probably will if you look at viruses and the humps, how it goes, and the peaks,
right.
You can't have everything. So there might be more shutdowns later, and people are not going to want to be someplace that they don't know. It's like, look, I can deal with being stuck at my house because I know what's there. I know what I have. I have these things. But imagine getting stuck in a hotel for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's really kind of scary. And that's why, I mean, there's friends of ours called Means to Travel. They were in the Netherlands when this all went down. And they're like, we're trying to figure out how to get back home as soon as possible. And luckily, like a friend of theirs host sister in Germany's like, hey, if you need, we have room. We'll pick you up in the Netherlands. You can stay with us till this is over. Like sometimes you get lucky like that. And sometimes you don't. Because we have some friends of ours. I mean, they got lucky. They got out of Cambodia to New Zealand by like, we got to get out of here because we want to get stuck someplace else. And they got into New Zealand. And 3 hours after they landed, New Zealand said, we're taking no foreigners anymore. Only New Zealand citizens. So like they're literally like got their bags out of baggage claim, got into a ride to their Airbnb, and they made the announcement. So they were like the last plane to get there to be allowed in. I mean, it's
holy smokes.
And so you're going to see people that are really worried about that. So I foresee being a lot more domestic tourism. Like I know for us, because we were going to be going to Europe, Middle East, and kind of East Africa, that's done. Like we're not going to be able to do that. And so now it's like, well, I guess we'll do a road trip because then we can keep everything with us. We can have the wipes and stuff like that, and we can have our things. And you kind of a lot of it's a control kind of thing. It's one of the reasons why people buy all that toilet paper. It's like, I can't control everything, but I can control that I don't run out of toilet paper. Because you think about it, I'm sure your students have had this happen. Like, there's nothing, you never feel more hopeless and helpless than when you're in a house and you go for the toilet paper and there's no toilet paper and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? I mean, has it ever happened to you? And someone else's house, you're like, man, I don't know what to do right now. And so at least they're like, hey, I don't have to worry about that. And so part of it's that it's something they can control. And so you'll see people want to control their situation. So you won't see as much traveling internationally. I mean, you have the people say, I'm going to go right away wherever, but there's a lot of things you have to think about. That worry there, but also the economic ramifications. I mean, 17 million Americans now have lost their job in the last week or so. I mean, that's, what is it, like 10% of the working population. There's no, I mean, and everyone's hurting. And you're like, do I go on that $10,000 family vacation, or do I just do some staycations and we take a weekend up in Chicago, a weekend over in Indianapolis, a weekend in St. Louis, and spend, a few $100s on each one of those? And so you're going to see a very different thing. I think in the long term, people will go back to the way they were. People have not been like people are people. We're still going to go travel. You're still going to want to see the Eiffel Tower. You're still going to go to the Great Wall of China. You know, it's like China just opened up for tourism again for the domestic tourists, and all the sites were just packed because people were like, "Oh, I get to go see it again." Like
I saw
there is
that.
that demand that people want to see, and what's sad is we've talked to so many people that they've had their like vacation plans and for like it's my dream and now it's gone. I'm like, let's hope you can do it. And so
Well,
it's a lot of
I was supposed to be taking a group of 47 to Rome, and 10 days before we were set to leave, the tour company called and said, Rome is shut off. There's no Rome. So over the weekend, we had to put together a new trip, and we were like, okay, well, we're going to go to Greece now. And then basically the whole earth shut its doors. And so now we're looking at probably next spring. But I mean, to your point, whenever all of this does pass, I do hope that people get out and travel and spend money, because I mean that's what it's going to take to kind of get our economy cranking again.
Oh yeah, I mean the economic devastation of this is amazing. Like I know they've had the billion or trillions of dollars in stimulus, but I mean it doesn't bring. I mean the money's there, but it doesn't mean the business is going to come back.
Right.
Because you had so many businesses that were just living paycheck by paycheck for the people working there, but also the businesses themselves. Especially if you're looking at restaurants and some retail chains, like they're working at such small margins that there's like, even you give me the money, I can't get started back up. You know?
Yeah. So I know that on some of your live chats, you've talked about like some of your origins of travel, and you kind of got a little bit of a interesting story. How did you get started being the global traveler that you are now?
Well, there's different ways. Like there's where Wolters World started, and there's how I started traveling. I started traveling. Like my dream in high school is I was going to be the mayor of my town and the governor of my state and keep going up. But then I went and studied abroad in Australia when I was in high school and loved it so much. I graduated high school early, went to Finland for a year, came back, went to college, studied in Austria, studied in Argentina, did my master's abroad, did my PhD abroad. And I'm like, I just love traveling. And I kept going and going and going. And while I was doing my PhD, I remember I went to Italy and I grabbed a guidebook at the airport in Venice. I'm like, I should get something just to like, I'm going to be here for a few weeks. Yeah, actually I was staying for a month, so taking some Italian classes and stuff. And it was during the semester break. And so I'm like, I'll enjoy myself. I'll learn some Italian. I'll go visit all the places around here. And I got this guidebook and it had like, that didn't have an alphabetical order. It just had this first town. I'm like, well, it's the first town they're recommending. And what's in the Venice, and like Venice is number 2, and this is the first one they're talking about. I'm like, well, it must be okay. And I read the guidebook, and it sounded amazing. It's like when you watch those blogs online, they make every place, the vlogs or whatever, they make these places look fantastic. You're like, oh, right. It is so great. It's so wonderful. The palazzo and the cathedral and all this stuff and the museums. I'm like, this place looks awesome. And I remember I showed my buddies the book, and they're like, really? Never heard of this town. That's cool. Yeah, go and see it. If it's as cool as you say, we'll go with you again this weekend to see it because it sounds wonderful. And so we ended up going. I went. It was just me at the time before I was married. And I went. We've been together so long. It's like, wait, no. And so I go and I visit and I go to this town. Like the palace is closed. The museum has like nothing to see. The food really wasn't that good. I'm like, this sucks. Like this is horrible. And I thought about it for a while. I actually got kind of upset because I'm like, this guidebook is making this place sound like it's wonderful when it's not. And that's not fair because I thought of my friends because I was like my late 20s, early 30s at the time. And I was thinking of my friends that only had like, 10 days of vacation or 15 days of vacation a year. I'm like, man, this could be somebody's one trip to Europe in their entire life or once every 10 years kind of thing. And they go to a town because some blogger says it's great because they got money to say it's nice, or a restaurant or a hotel because, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I mean, I get so upset with the influencers that just straight up are lying to people. I'm like, look, make sure you look and see if they have the hashtag sponsor, hashtag ad, because they have to have that. And sometimes they don't do it. And you're like, I always remember this one couple, they did all these YouTube videos about these places in Mexico, and they went to 3 places in a row that were, this is the greatest city in Mexico. You have to go here. And I'm like, you said that in 3 videos straight. And then I found out later that they were paid by the tourism board of each of those places to come visit, and that's what they were supposed to say. And I'm like, you made
Gotcha.
a commercial. You didn't make a review video. And so I was like, that's not right. And so I started making these videos to help people, just being as honest as possible. Look, we started videos, 5 things you love and hate about going to places, because not every place is great. There are good things, there's bad things. And so we really kind of focused on that, and that kind of morphed into like the fun culture shock videos we do, and the don'ts, which are actually more do's, but no one watches a video saying what you should do when you go places. They don't know what you don't do. So you do it that way. It's like, don't forget to have, the fried ravioli in St. Louis or whatever, those
Yeah.
kind of stuff. You got to figure out ways to get it to people. But I just got so disappointed because like I would see guidebooks just copied off each other. And I remember I was in Brazil and I read this one and I'm like, you say it's a half-hour train ride from Ouro Preto to Mariana. This is place in Minas Gerais. I'm like,
Okay.
I've been on that train like multiple times. It has never been a half hour ever. Even it was like a working normal train. It's like at least an hour. And so we were back down there a few years ago and we got the train. They're like, yes, are you ready for an hour and 10-minute ride? And it even says on the sign, like they a metal sign that says it's an hour and like 10 minutes long. And I'm like, obviously none of them took the train ride. Someone probably said, oh, the whole adventure is an hour and a half. They heard half an hour and then they put in all their blogs and all their videos.
I mean, if
like,
somebody's planning for a trip though, and they're like scheduling, like whenever I plan for a trip, I'm scheduling everything out, like in 30-minute increments. We're like, okay, we're going to be in this spot from 1 o'clock until 2:30. And then we need to move on.
If you have groups, you have to do that.
Yeah. That can, something like that can especially, that could jack up your trip.
Yeah, and that was my thing. I'm like, this isn't right. And so that's why we've really focused on being honest all the time. I mean, it has not helped us in terms of getting sponsors and things like that. Because when companies have reached out to us to do stuff, I'm like, look, we will say the good and the bad.
Right.
And sometimes it's been products that we use that I talk about in my video saying I love their products. And they've reached out to us. I'm like, look, I'm going to do the good and the bad. They're like, well, make your video, make your blog, then send it to us. We'll tell you what to change. Man, if you want me to do a commercial, that's something different. You want me to do a review or something like that, then I need to be honest because I'm not going to lie to my audience just to make you happy. And that's why most brands, I mean, 99 out of 100 brands will say, oh, no thanks.
Yeah.
Because they want a commercial.
That's one thing that I really like about your channel is that it's intensely practical. So 2 years ago, my wife and I took a group of students to France. We went to Paris and Normandy and London. Nice. And whenever we were there, we went up on the Eiffel Tower. And at that particular day, the top level was closed. We could only go to the second level. And we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then last month, we had an opportunity to go back to Paris and Normandy. And the one thing that my wife wanted to do was go to the top level of the Eiffel Tower. That was all that she wanted to do. So I said, okay, we'll make that.
You better have taken her there.
Yes. Yeah, it was the only thing that she wanted. So we, cut some things out, changed the itinerary around and went to the third level. And it was cool. We enjoyed it.
Yes, I can see in your face that we enjoyed it.
Well, after we got done, she said, you know what? That wasn't really what I expected it to be. It was cool just to say that we did it.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's cool to do it. I've done it.
But then, whenever I got back, I got on your channel, and the video was, I think, most overrated things in Paris. And one of the things that you said was going up in the Eiffel Tower is one of the most overrated things in Paris. And I was like, well, yep, I wish I would have watched that video before we left.
Yeah, should have got it out earlier. I could have saved. Well, no, she still wanted to go. You would have gone.
Yeah. But anyway, that's what I like about your channel is it would be kind of like going to a buddy who has been to London or has been to Rome or Poland or something like that, and saying, okay, what do I need to know if I'm going to this city? What are some good foods to eat? What do I need? What are the things that are actually cool? What should I avoid? So that
we try to do.
Yeah.
That's because for me, that's one thing I really love about YouTube is you get to have this kind of community. You can like make friends with people on here. Like for those who know, JD just reached out to me and I'm like, sure, let's do something. I'm like, you have this like camaraderie on YouTube. Like, heck yeah, I will do a collaboration. You know, they could never get, you know, Stallone and Schwarzenegger together in the 80s because no. But hey, everybody gets together. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a great place to learn. So, I mean, of all the places that you've been to, which I think it would be easier for me to name the places that you haven't been, rather than the places that you have.
Yeah.
If somebody handed you a ticket to anywhere and said, okay, you can only go back to one of these places and then your travel's over, where are you going? One place.
Now, if I said like a country, do I get the whole country to explore? Or is that like
Sure,
one
yeah,
city?
we'll give you a country.
Hmm. Wow.
I know, it's like picking your favorite kid.
I know. I would probably go Italy just because the
Okay.
food, culture, and people, and I speak Italian. I have so many friends there. So it'd be like my perfect like place to go. But I think if I went for if there's like if you would say, hey Mark, there's only one place you can go you've never been before that you can go to, it would be a toss between Israel and Egypt for me. Like those are two places that I really want to go that I haven't been to yet. I know
Okay.
for my wife, she's all about Bhutan. She's like Bhutan's the one because we got to Rwanda last year and that's been her dream to go, and so now it's Bhutan. But yeah,
Her dream was to go to Rwanda.
yeah.
You don't really
So
hear that as far as
no,
people bucket
so
list
we went,
locations.
it was
Rwanda and
Joseph
Bhutan.
Rosendo. Yeah, no, Joseph Rosendo Travel Scope did a thing there years ago, and it really like kind of stuck in our minds. We saw it on PBS, like that does look pretty cool, and I read up on it. And, you know, whenever we tell people we're thinking about going to Rwanda, they're like, "Oh, the genocide! You
Yeah.
can't go there. You're gonna die." I'm like, the genocide was like 25 years ago or something like that. You know? And so we actually went last year, and you know, we were a little, you know, like, well, let's see. And you go there, the cleanest country you'll ever see.
Really?
I mean, the last Saturday of the month, every month, over 80% of the population participates in cleaning the streets and cleaning everything up. So, I mean, we got in at like 1 o'clock in the morning at the airport, going to, I mean, you could have gotten off, had dinner on the side of the road, clean, totally fine.
Really?
There's so few tourists that go there. The tourists that go there fly in and they go see the gorillas, you know, the gorillas in the mist kind of stuff, and then they
Yeah.
fly out because they're always so worried. But the people there were fantastic. I mean, we loved it there. We had a great time. The kids want to go back all the time. We'd stop and play soccer, and so few people go there, especially people that go and travel with their kids there. Like we went, and people were like, "Oh, tourists!" And they like wave, and then they'd see our kids, and they would lose their mind, like, and then like all the kids would run just to see our kids. And so we used to stop and play soccer and stuff. And so we would give away, you know, we'd play soccer, then give them the soccer ball. And it was really kind of cool because like the kids were like, "Wait, we shouldn't have the ball," and they would get like the village elder to come out, and like the mayor, and then they give him the soccer ball to hold on to it, so no one like so it'd be fair for everyone. And you know, as much as there is like division in the U.S. and people talk about things, it's nothing compared to what happened in Rwanda 25 years ago. But
Yeah.
how they've come together, you can really learn about reconciliation and overcoming some horrible things. And like we all can get along one day. We can come together. So like when you see what an example Rwanda is, I mean, it was just fantastic. Like our kids like, "Can we go back? Can we go
Interesting.
back?" So they're all about going back. So
Okay. Cool. So we were talking a little bit earlier on the phone today, and we were kind of touching on how different cultures or different countries look at history
yes.
differently than what we do. And you'd specifically mentioned Finland.
Yes.
What are some examples that you can think of off the top of your head of how
So
different countries look at a slice of history different than us?
So, like with Finland, Finland had a war against the Soviet Union, Russia, however you want to say it. You know, the White War for them. And the thing is that when you talk to, because I lived in Finland in the '90s, and so if you're talking to the old people, then they're like, "Look, I mean, World War II, they didn't really even talk about. They talked about when we beat Russia, like that was their big war." And it's kind of interesting to see. I know you were talking about Ukraine and how
Yeah.
they World War II, like versus like for the U.S. side, like the U.S. didn't do much. You know, it's all about us. And so you do really see kind of the different perspectives that are out there. And that's what's kind of interesting. Like when you go and you learn about, for example, Rwanda, what we learn outside Rwanda is very different than when you're in there. Like, oh, if you look at the history of Belgium and what King Leopold did in Central, or Central Africa, you're like, oh my gosh, that is horrible. Why don't we learn about this?
Yeah.
Whereas there, like, look, these are the things that happened. And you're like, oh my God. It's like you're really kind of like tailored into thinking one way. And so it's, if you go back to the winner writes the history books kind of stuff. And so you get a very different perspective when you're going to the like losing side. And I'm not saying loser, but I'm saying like the other side, the other perspective, because a lot of times the truth is somewhere in the middle. So it's kind of interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, I've been places where people are like, yeah, there was a war, but we were back in power, so I guess it wasn't that bad, at least that time. Like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you? It's some very, very interesting things we've seen over the years.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I said, my travel isn't nearly as extensive as what yours is. That's one of the things that I enjoy the most, though. Even traveling in the U.S. or whether it's traveling abroad, is really what I learn along the way. So again, back to Ukraine.
I love like just reading like the history section of the guidebooks. Like you learn so much more about the people. Like just read the culture section. You're like, oh, now I understand what they're doing that for.
Yep, exactly. Well, really, whenever Stalin took power in the Soviet Union, there was this thing called the Holodomor, where basically tried to starve out the peasants of Ukraine because they were resisting the collectivization.
8 million people died, or 2 million? I can't remember how. Is it 2 or 8 million?
Oh, it's an insane number of people that died. Here in the United States, like going through school and anything like that, I'd never learned about it. And over there, they said this is our Holocaust. So yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff like that you learn. Whenever
you hear about horrible things like that, like why don't we know about this? And then
exactly.
Well, when they get one chapter for World War II, it makes some cuts.
Oh. So hey, did I hear you right? Whenever you said that you've like led some tours.
Oh, so I'm a professor, so I'll take, like you do, you take your students abroad, I'll take my students abroad.
Okay.
And so I usually run one a year. Usually I used to do like 10-day ones, and we go see companies and company visits and do some cultural stuff. Last year and this year, well, this year it's going to be online, but originally, usually like lately I'd like to go teach like one of my marketing courses abroad and see if we can get local students to take it too.
Oh, okay.
So this would have been my third summer teaching in Vienna, where it's like half University of Illinois students, half Austrian students. This year it'll be online, so it's still half and half, but it's online, so you don't get as much interaction that way.
Right.
But so a lot of it's just like taking my students and things like that.
Okay. All right. How have you seen that impact your students? I'm assuming that maybe a lot of them haven't been out of the country before.
You'd be surprised. A lot of haven't. You cut out for a second, but a lot haven't. Some have, but a lot haven't. So it's really special because a lot of times, like, I'll get a lot of accounting students, because the accounting students, how their program goes, they don't necessarily get to do that semester abroad. So this is like their one chance to go abroad. And so it'll be like 10 days with me or a month with me. And they're like, this is great. And I could actually see in them from day one of the trip to the end, you see that development in them, like, oh my God, like you see the blinders kind of opening, like they get a wider perspective of the world. And if I can do that for one person, it's fantastic, with these trips. And like when I see my students, we still talk about it later. There's some are getting married. There's sending me invitations to go because we really got it and stuff. It's really a special thing.
Cool. So whenever you are getting ready for a trip, I know that, I mean, you've got a bunch of videos of, things to look out for in, the United States and, and abroad. What, whenever you're getting ready to go on a trip, what does the planning look like for you? Because I know that Mark Wolters doesn't have a Mark Wolters channel that he's going to watch.
So that's what's funny. Like the back flipping travel people and the look at us forget our visas and what are we going to do? I don't watch those because they're not really helping me get ready to travel. Mm-hmm. They're fun to watch, but they're not really helping me prepare. So what I'll do is we'll hit up our Barnes and Noble, go through the Lonely Planet book. We'll go through the DK book. We'll go through the National Geographic. We'll go through Frommer's. We'll read through all those things, get some ideas. We'll go online. We'll look at a bunch of blogs. I'll probably look at about 50 to 100 blogs per destination. I will look at YouTube videos and things that are out there. But for me, I don't go for the entertainment blogs. I go for the information blogs, like the ones that are giving you like the facts and stuff like that, because that's more helpful. And then we'll reach out to our fans, like, hey, are you from Slovenia? We're heading by there. Is there anything you would like us to know? Because we'll have our list of don'ts. We'll have some ideas because most places we go have already been. So I already have my I remember my time there, and then I'll do the research and get some other ideas, talk to some locals, and then we'll actually go. And I don't film it right away. I'm like, let me get a feel for it some more. And so we'll stay a few days before I even start to film, just to get a better feel for it, because some things change. Like, again, going to the train in Brazil where that's not the case. Costa Rica, people are like, oh, your car is going to get eaten because the potholes are so big. I'm like, actually, no, the roads are fine. I did see a couple of those potholes like that, but it wasn't a pothole. They just didn't put the manhole cover on, so it's a little different. They just built a new highway through the country, so you're like, yeah, you do your research, but you got to keep your mind open. It's because some people I've already done the research, I've already written the script, so I'm going to say my script no matter what. No, you can adjust. And so I will spend a ton of time. I have it on my computer, and I'll actually print out a bunch of my notes before I go, so I have it with me. Just kind of go over some things. Because I'll take my little laptop and stuff like that, but I don't want, you're not carrying that around. And battery life, your battery life is not unlimited on these things. So I still have printouts and stuff like that of things I want to do. But then I have I have one up here. Yeah. So I'll end up writing my script in here. And so I have the main thing. I'll have the don'ts of family space camp. So I have them written down here, my notes here, and I go through and just have it kind of sitting up there, or I have it on the ground on my backpack, and I just do my little chat and glance down to see if I made all my points, and if I forgot one, add it in.
Okay. So whenever, I don't know, I'll just take Paris for example, because that'd be an easy one for me. Whenever you get there, are you looking at all of the, supposed popular sites? So you're going to the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre and all that kind of stuff. And then you're kind of like a human guinea pig for.
Yeah. Well, because our thing is we've gone to these places, we've made these mistakes, we figure these things out. So we want everybody to know, because that's the thing is, if I can help you not make a mistake, it's worthwhile. Because some people, you make one mistake on a trip, they get so upset, it's it's ruined. If you get pickpocketed, you get mugged, you get a bad meal. You're like, oh, I hated it there because that server was so bad. But if look, Parisians are super cool. Waiters in Paris kind of suck. That's why people have this bad impression of France, because most people just go to Paris and then they have Paris waiters, and they're usually not that friendly. Now they're getting better, but if you meet real locals, you're like, they're actually really cool. Yes, they are. And so it's funny because we'll go and be like, hey, when we go to Paris, we have our certain things. We always stay in the same district. We have our favorite restaurants we go to. We see some friends that are there, and we'll wander around. We'll actually go to parks, let the kids play. We don't go up the Eiffel Tower anymore, but we go to the park behind it, because there's actually a play park there the kids can play in. And they've been going there since they were like Liam couldn't walk. Well, actually, no, Liam learned how to walk there, and he's 8 now. Been there, once or twice a year since then. And even though we got a 13-year-old, he'll still go to the park, because hey, that's what we got to do. And so we'll do that. And so it's one of those things. And we will hit up, we don't go to Louvre every time, but we'll go to the Musée d'Orsay, or we'll go to l'Orangerie. We'll go to one of those things each time. Because we've been to Paris so many times, it's more like going to a second town. It's think about it, when you go back and visit your hometown, you're not going to see the sights. You're going to, I got to have my favorite food. I got to see my people. I got to do this. It's kind of like that. So that's how it usually ends up. Now, for towns that aren't London, Paris, Rome, those are ones we've gone to so much, it's a little bit different. If we go to a place if I go to Madrid, Madrid I've been to a few times, but my wife hasn't gone. So we'd go there. I'm like, yes, we're going to go see the Prado. We're going to go to the Reina Sofia. If you want to go to the other one of the big three, you can, but I'm going to go do some tapas instead. So we always give each other a little leeway.
Okay.
But if it's one of if it's you got to go. And when we have the kids, look, you got to see Guernica. You got to see Guernica by Picasso when you're in Madrid. So you got to go to the Reina Sofia. And so there's certain things I'm like, we got to do this. Right. And then we're always trying to look for fun things. There's Atlas Obscura is pretty fun for finding interesting destinations.
Yeah, that's a good website.
They have the weird museums all over. And so we'll try to look for some of those. Oh, hey, you want to see the Weird Deformity Museum in St. Petersburg? Let's go. And so you'll see things like that.
Did you say St. Petersburg, a weird deformity museum?
It's St. Petersburg, Russia. There's like one of the czars collected like horse fetuses with two heads and like crazy thing. It looks like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, but it's not fake.
Yeah, Russia is one of the top places on my list to go to. I would love to go to Moscow and Volgograd and St. Petersburg.
It's a cool place to go. I think people get. I mean, right now people like always talking bad about Russia. I mean, I've always enjoyed going there. I have tons of friends from there, so we go, but we enjoy our times when we go. And the funny thing is Russia can be like still like crazy expensive, or you can find stuff crazy cheap. Like there is no middle ground. It's like
interesting.
Well, especially in Moscow, you're gonna. Well, actually, Moscow. Just no Moscow. So you're gonna roll your budget on Moscow. St. Petersburg not super cheap, but you can find some deals. Moscow is just crazy.
Yeah. Whenever our trip got upended and we were trying to find some other place to go other than Rome, I actually mentioned Russia as an option, and I had some people that said, "Nope, not going to Russia." There was no way. They were.
And that's one thing, because you have people that will have their opinions. Everyone's allowed their opinion, But we go to places like we went to Russia before the World Cup was there, so we could have some people get ready to go. We went to Brazil before the last Olympics because I was so tired of all the bad press that Brazil was getting for crime and stuff like this. I'm like, yes, Rio does have issues. I'm not gonna lie to you about that, but Brazil's not that bad, and the people were just massacring it. I'm like, no, we're going. So we were there like where NBC had their studio was like right in front of where we were staying, and NBC had rented out a few floors in this hotel when we were there for like it's like we left like on Monday and they were coming on Friday or something like that. Oh, wow. And so we were just making all these videos like, look, people, it's not this bad. They're like, oh, this lady got robbed at gunpoint. I'm like, yeah, that happens in Chicago. That happens in New York. Like
exactly.
Like if you walk around with big old diamonds and you look like you got a lot of money, guess what? People are gonna rob you all over the world. So let's be realistic with this. And people and so we've really tried to like go to places that people are kind of scared to go, but shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Or they should go. They should still pay attention, but don't think it's like. I mean, I made this joke back in the day because remember when Zika was going to get us all? It was kind of like, look, I mean, people would go, they're worried they're going to get shot, robbed, get Zika, become a Zika zombie, come back to life, get shot again, robbed again. I'm like, let's show some real stuff. So, like, we made it a point the last few years to really try to get places like that. So that's why we ended up in Brazil. We went to El Salvador, Nicaragua, some other places. Just be like, look, Rwanda. Like you can enjoy these things. Yeah, you gotta be careful, just like anywhere. But it's not like you can't go certain places. It's about doing your research and being prepared.
You got to be smart no matter where you go.
Yeah. I mean, there's parts of my town where I live you probably shouldn't go, and probably where you live, there's probably some places you don't want to go. So
yeah, exactly. So as far as some of the places that you've been, I'm a big history nerd, so. Everything that
my friend.
Everything I do is I'm looking through the lens of history. What place have you been that kind of impacted you the most, would you say, as far as just like the history of it, where you were like, oh, we walked away and like that was cool. I know there's a lot of places, but
yeah, there are a ton. I would say like doing the beaches in Normandy. I know you've been there. Like going there and were you there? You've been there since they redid Omaha Beach's memorial, right? Where you go down underneath the cemetery. Have you been in there, the visitor center, Omaha Beach?
You know what? So the day that I was there, we struggled with some awful weather whenever we were there.
Yeah, it's Normandy. They have like the cruddiest weather in France.
It was terrible. So
I'm telling you, like you go into they redid it for the 75th, and underneath because it has the guys telling their stories.
Okay.
So you can listen to them talking about it, and like our kids were crying. Everybody was crying because you really felt the history of it, like them telling the stories versus looking at a picture. Because when you're Normandy, there's all these museums, and they show some pictures and stuff like that. But it's when they show you the movie reels and stuff like that, and they tell you the stories. You're like, oh my God. My kids were like, Dad, you got to come listen to this. And telling the stories, like one guy's like, I couldn't sleep, so I dug a foxhole. I tried to wake my friend up, say, hey, dig a foxhole, man. I got nothing else to do. He's like, nah, I'm going to sleep here. I'll be fine. And so it's like, I finished digging my foxhole, and I took a nap in there, and and we didn't realize over my shoulder was a German sniper, and they called an airstrike, and everyone died, and I didn't.
Oh,
He's like, I just would have made my friend dig that. You can just feel the survivor's guilt and stuff like this. I mean, it was incredible. And you go, and I know you've been to St. Maria Église, where there's the trooper the paratrooper that's stuck on the
yeah, John
church.
Keel.
Yeah, and you see that, and you're like, wow. And then there's then I remember going to Auschwitz, and there's Auschwitz, and then there's Birkenau too, Auschwitz two, Birkenau two,
Yes.
and there's the of Auschwitz. It looks all fancy with the like brick buildings and stuff like that, and then you go to the Birkenau two, Auschwitz Birkenau two, and that's where it has the train tracks going in, and then you see the Lager, the like the houses that are there, and you're like, oh my god, like that's one of the things that really upsets me with travelers that'll take like inconsiderate pictures. Like, here I am at Auschwitz. I'm like, are you crazy?
Yes.
What's wrong with you? And
Yes.
you'll be like,
Getting their concentration camp selfie.
and you'll see that, and you'll see it everywhere. I've seen it in New York City at the 9/11 memorial. In Berlin, they had to put up signs to tell people to stop jumping on all the Jewish memorial there, because it's all these like rectangles, and you can different levels, and you're supposed to feel. And of course, and I know people that have done that. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, well, the artist wants to be a living part of the city. I'm like, yeah, but you don't climb on any memorial,
Yeah.
and I don't think you do your parkour stuff there. Luckily now they have all the stuff up. The cops are like, nah, get down. And so you see that. Yeah, and that's one thing that's really sad. You should, like, come on, have some respect.
So I've never been to Auschwitz. So that's one that's on my list that I definitely want to go to. I did go to Dachau 4 years ago with a student group.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you say, there's a heaviness that's there. And the day that we were there, I'm not sure why, but we were pretty much the only ones on the entire complex.
Yeah, and then you really feel it too.
Yeah. And I took pictures there.
Yeah.
But it felt, in a way, it felt weird. Like I was in the gas chamber by myself, and I thought, all right, I want to, document this so that I can show others and be able to talk about it. And I've even wondered about.
Then people don't believe you, or they don't understand. It's like it's because I know exactly what you're talking about. In the back where there's the gas chambers, and there's the where they were the crematorium and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, no, until you're like, yeah, and then you see it, you're like, oh my god.
I've even wondered about that, because I am going to go back one of these days, and I mean, just for the stuff that I do on my channel, I've wondered, how would I do that in a way that is not not disrespectful? Because, I don't want to be the goofball that's holding his camera out, in Dachau, or I don't know. But at the same time, you want to talk about it.
I think one thing is what you do with History Undercover, or Underground, sorry, History Underground, is very different than what some of these other people are doing. Like, you're trying to document history, and you're coming from a historical perspective. So I think what you're doing is a good thing. And if you don't feel comfortable doing the thing, what I'll do is, like, I'll just, I'll videotape a few bits here and there, but I won't say anything, just have that. And then I'll just do a voiceover, or I'll film the intro and outro, another part of the city or something like that. Mm-hmm. Just say, out of respect, I'm not going to be filming there, but I want to show you some of the stuff so you can see that. So, and with your awesome editing skills, I'm sure you get the voiceover.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a monkey with.
You got like a treadmill back there, so you could like record it while you're walking, so it has that walking cadence while you're doing it.
Yeah. Oh shoot. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, that's another thing I like about travel is, I mean, it's one thing to read about these different things that happened, and the students that I've taken to these different places as well, like to Omaha Beach. Or
what do you do anything to prepare them for that? Do you guys say, hey, we should watch this movie or read this book or anything like that? Or is it kind of like?
Yeah. So prior to the trip, we'll have a list of the different places that we go. And I do this for myself too. I just research the heck out of everything to try and learn more about it. And I'll kind of direct them to some of those resources too. So it might be, a different YouTube, and say, okay, we're going to go to, in the case of our trip to Rome that got bumped, We're going to be going to the Coliseum. Hey, here's a 10-minute video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because there've been places that I've gone to before and I didn't educate myself properly prior to going there. So
Yeah.
I went, and it was interesting, and it was cool to see. And then afterwards I leave and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to go learn more about that. And then I think, gosh, I wish I would have known all of that before I went.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I would have appreciated it more.
Oh yes, I've been there a number of times, and now like I've had like now with my students, whenever like we were in Copenhagen, they have this Christiana Stadt or whatever, like this kind of like free city inside Copenhagen, and I really wish I would have educated my students a bit more before they went in there because they were not ready for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's sometimes like, oh, if I would have known. That's why now I tell people like, look, if there's something you really want to do, you really want to see, or it's really exciting to you, go get a good guide that is for that place. It can bring so much more out because they'll have their usual shtick, but then you can ask them questions like, oh, and you get so much more out of it. I mean, we don't use guides a lot of times because I do all the research and stuff like that. But sometimes I'm like, no, I really want to know. Like I took our students to the Vatican and we did like you go in early, and the guy we had two guides because you can only take like 10 at a time. So I had one and my wife had the other. And the guide I had, dude, like when we came out, one of the books all the people were selling for like, this is the Vatican, learn about the Vatican. It's his book. It's
Oh,
like he was like those things. So you see that toe on that statue there? It's like this. Well, this guy had a bent toe. You're like, dude, how do you know this? He's like, that's my book. I'm like, nah. He's like,
you got the
no, I do
man.
this once a week for fun. So I was like, dude, you were awesome.
Oh shoot, yeah, because I've just caught myself so many times and I get so frustrated. Even though I'm kind of like a stereotypical World War II nerd, the first time that I went to Omaha Beach and Gold Beach, I got there and was like, dang, I don't know anything about where I'm at right now. Like this exact spot, and was really wishing that I'd have done more research ahead of time. So on this most recent trip, I tried to do my homework.
Yeah.
And even still, I'll post a video and people will say, hey, why didn't you talk about, the Royal Air Force whenever they were on, Omaha Beach with the Americans? Or why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? So
Yeah. People always find something you missed. Don't worry. You can remember it. You still forget something. You're like, well, we spell royal with two L's. And you're like, yeah.
the one that killed me in France is trying to pronounce French words.
Oh yeah, they have no sympathy.
I'm
No sympathy. I have fun with it. They're like, nice try. I'm like, I tried.
yeah. So I'm gonna ask you one last question here.
Sure.
Let's say you got a stereotypical history nerd, and they tell you, hey, I've got 10 days that I can spend in Europe. Where are you going to send them? I'm putting you on the spot there.
I would still probably send them on my. Well, I would probably send them 10 days. Can be decided. If you have like 11 or 12, we can do this. But I would still do the main city thing because you can still get between. Because I always think like, can I get there on the train or the plane? Is it like feasible? Because like some towns are really great you want to see, but getting there you're going to waste a day just to get there versus like, oh, it's an hour flight and you're in and out.
Yeah.
So I would probably have people fly to London, do like the World War II shelters, like we can go like the war rooms underneath, hit up the British Museum because you get world history there. You get that, and then from there you grab the train, go down to Paris, spend a few days. You have the history of Paris from the catacombs to the Eiffel Tower to the Louvre and stuff like that. Then you're gonna fly over to Prague to get your like little taste of Central Europe and stuff like that, because you just feel history when you're there. And then I'd go down to Rome and have that. Like those, they're all big cities. They're all, you can actually get cheap flights between everything instead of like, not blowing your budget. And you can do that. And there's just so much, and you get a very distinctly different culture in each one. So you really feel like you're in four, I mean, you are in 4 different countries, but you feel like 4 different cultures and 4 different languages. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Nice. I had a foreign exchange student from Europe one time in one of my classes, and that was one thing that he said was the biggest difference between the United States and Europe. He said, here you have this big country, and he said, essentially, I've traveled to different parts. He said, essentially, it's it's very similar wherever you go.
We all
We
got the big
might
box
look,
store.
yeah, we might look at that different. He said
Yeah.
he was from the Netherlands, and he said, I can travel 1 hour and I'm in a completely different country, completely different culture, different language and everything. So, I mean, yeah. So just to your point there, you get a whole taste of all these different cultures in just one short package.
And I think that's one reason why people like the U.S. gets kind of a bad rap sometimes because people are like, oh, Americans don't have passports. Americans don't do this. I'm like, well, if I had to have a passport to go see you in Missouri, well, I would have a passport because it's right there. If I need to go to Indiana, which is like 45 minutes away, you have a very different perspective on things versus, oh, it's all the same. And because when I was a kid, we would drive down to St. Louis. That was like my mom saying, oh, school shopping time. We're going down to the Galleria. Let's go. We're gonna have lunch at Frontenac or something. Yeah, I got name drop some St. Louis stuff there for you.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to
Oh,
chat
yeah,
with
I'm
me.
glad,
I'm always
I'm glad
looking
I
for
came.
people who have more experience and more knowledge than me, and try and glean whatever wisdom I can off of them.
I'm
So
glad I can help.
yeah, appreciate what you're doing on your channel too. It's benefited me quite a bit.
Cool. I'm glad to hear it. Tell your students I said hey, and good luck and keep up the good teaching, my friend.
All right, thanks, man.
All right. Bye.